Tonight, police have a teenage girl in custody after a gun was brought into an East Regina high school. Also, after crossing a grim death toll this week, we look at what scientists can learn from the number of people who've died from COVID-19. Plus, after nearly 25 years, the screens will dim one last time this weekend at a once popular Regina movie theater.
This is CBC Saskatchewan News.
It is Friday, September 23rd, and the CBC Saskatchewan News starts right now. Good evening, and thank you for joining us. It was not the kind of Friday students at an East Regina high school were expecting. Just after 9 a.m., police received reports that a person entered F.W. Johnson Collegiate with a gun. The school went into lockdown, and now a teen is in custody. Laura Sharpaletti has the details.
This mother is relieved her 10th grade son Cameron is safe and sound. All Friday morning, she was on the phone with him as he and his classmates sat on the floor of their schoolroom with no way of knowing when they could leave.
He told me that the school is in lockdown right now, and that's all that he knew that was going on. And then he kept on messaging me, letting me know that they've cleared the first floor and then the second floor, and they were in his room.
Just after 9 a.m., police say they first received a report about a gun in the school. In addition to F.W. Johnson, 5 nearby elementary schools also went into secure the building mode. Police say no shots were fired and nobody was hurt. While some of the students say they felt taken care of and safe in lockdown, many were still fearful.
A little nervous and scared. Didn't really know what to think too much because it's never happened before.
Police communicated with the students throughout the school during the incident.
Police came into our room and they asked us if we knew any information about the intruder. No one knew anything, and then they said we could stand up and stretch, but then we had to sit back down, so then they moved on.
Failer says she's scared about another incident happening again, but says she believes the F.W. Johnson School will take care of them. Regina Public Schools says teachers and students go over these lockdown drills in hopes of never needing to use them. All that practice helped.
They knew what they were doing. They worked very well with police. We had lines of communication open from the moment it started, and everything went according to protocol, and we're very pleased that it was resolved peacefully.
Lazarus says extra mental health counselors were brought in to support students and staff.
Police say a 13-year-old female was arrested at a residence she had left the school. Prior to her arrest, 9 officers entered the school and several others surrounded the area. No charges have been laid yet.
The gun was determined to be a realistic assault rifle replica that shoots plastic pellets. Regina's deputy police chief says this was a rare incident.
We understand the fear, the anxiety that this incident would have caused. I'm a mom, we know that you would be worried sick about it. I think what I would want parents to know is that the Regina Police Service responded to this very quickly with the safety of students and staff at the forefront of our minds.
In the meantime, parents may be hugging their children extra tightly now.
What are you going to do tonight?
Breathe. Hold him. Hold him.
I'm going to Dad's.
I'm going to hold you for a good couple of hours.
Laura Sharpaletti, CBC News, Regina.
Saskatchewan's chief coroner says an inquest into the mass killings at James Smith Cree Nation and in nearby Weldon should have an all-Indigenous jury. One veteran lawyer is applauding the move, but as Jason Warwick reports, that lawyer says it's just one of many changes needed in Canada's justice system.
Saskatchewan's chief coroner, Clive Wayhill, said he'd like to see exclusively Indigenous juries for the inquests into the James Smith Cree Nation killings. 12 people are dead, including the 2 suspects. Most of the victims are Indigenous. Veteran Saskatoon lawyer Donald Worm is the former counsel to the Truth and Reconciliation Commission and has participated in dozens of inquests. Worm says Wayhill's announcement is a positive step, but it's going to take more than Indigenous juries to fix a justice system that he says is racist at every level.
For the last 35 years, at least in my career, and there have been many before me that have called for Indigenous justice all around, an Indigenous justice system. The proposal of Coroner Wayhill that we should have Indigenous jurors on those is not a fix for the problem. it ignores the fact that it ought to be an Indigenous process all the way through. Would it be any different? Well, I don't know, because we've never been given that opportunity.
Worm says there needs to be a fundamental change in the power structures, the methods, and the intent of the entire justice system. And he says the situation is urgent.
Indigenous people simply aren't going to sit around. We cannot wait. We do not have the luxury of time any longer. And these events will not stop occurring.
Worm says he'd like to be optimistic, but it's hard.
I'm troubled that my new grandchild will inherit this system and that I have not been able to make the kinds of changes that our communities need.
The inquests will take place after the police investigation is complete. Wayhill said that could be sometime in the middle of next year. Jason Warwick, CBC News, Saskatoon.
Voters in Saskatoon Meewasin have already started making their choice for a new MLA. Advanced polls opened this week with by-elections set for Monday. It's a crowded ballot. 5 parties are jockeying for votes. Adam Hunter has the details.
Nathaniel Teed is the candidate for the NDP in Saskatoon Meewasin. Teed started campaigning a month before he won the nomination. The NDP has held the seat since 2017 under former leader Ryan Miley.
You know, Ryan and I, we've sat down, we've chatted. He's behind our campaign 100%. We were out on the doorstep. We're not taking this by-election for granted. Yes, it's an important by-election, but we are working hard every day to meet voters where they are.
The Saskatchewan Party had election wins in the constituency in 2011 and 2016. It's hoping to wrestle it away from the NDP.
I think the number one thing that we're focused on is this is an opportunity for the residents of Meewasin to get a voice back in government. They've been represented, by the opposition for a few years now. So now here's an opportunity in this by-election to get a voice back at the government table.
But this isn't just a party of two. The Green Party, Buffalo Party, and the Liberal Party all have candidates on the ballot. Liberal leader Jeff Walters is aiming for a breakthrough for the party, which had a second-place finish in 2003.
Let's be honest about this. With a party that hasn't been active for at least half a decade, it's basically viewed as a sunk ship. Nobody's going to attach themselves to a sunk ship. And so our job is to show that we are, in fact, not that sunk ship, but we're on the way up, that we are worth the time, people's time and effort to actually invest in us, whether that be through volunteerism or even just support.
While Walters looks to build momentum, those who follow provincial politics say the stakes are highest for the NDP.
To lose Saskatoon Meewasin would be a loss of great significance, devastating. And it would really cut the effort of Carla Beck as a new leader.
In February, the Saskatchewan Party won the Athabasca by-election. 3 days later, Miley announced he would be stepping down as leader. Advanced voting continues through Saturday. Polls will open again on Monday, and a result will be determined later that night. Adam Hunter, CBC News, Regina.
People here in Saskatchewan are reacting to events in Iran and the death of Mahsa Amini. Last week, the 22-year-old woman was detained in Iran for improperly wearing a hijab. She later died in police custody, and her death has sparked protests in Iran and around the world, including last night at the U of S in Saskatoon.
People here are looking for justice. They are more than that, looking for a change of regime, because we just had enough of many young people dying under this investigations by the police, who is supposed to bring safety for a country, not death.
Some of the women in Saskatoon also cut their hair at the rally on campus. They join others in Iran and around the world who have been cutting their hair in public demonstrations. E-scooters could soon be legally rolling down public roads. SGI has changed the regulations around e-scooters, and now it's up to each municipality to allow them or not. If a community passes a bylaw allowing e-scooters on roads, they will still only be allowed on streets with a 50 km/h speed limit. Riders would have to be at least 16 years old and wear a helmet. And if a municipality doesn't pass a bylaw permitting their use, the scooters will be prohibited on public roads in that community. The new rules only apply to electric scooters, but could be expanded to other micromobility devices like Segways or electric skateboards. After nearly 25 years, the screens are dimming one last time at a once popular Regina movie theater. Rainbow Cinemas screens its final films on Sunday. Our Ethan Williams was there today for one last look.
This is one of the final times Thomas Hendrickson will be grabbing popcorn from the counter at Rainbow Cinemas. He's worked here in some capacity for over 15 years.
Rainbow kind of felt like something that was just always going to be hanging around in this city. And it's just really weird each day that ticks down. You go, oh yeah.
The theater, known for its retro feel and low prices, struggled through the pandemic. It's one of the reasons it's closing.
I think people, the money was tight, and we understand that you don't have excess to spend after those shutdowns.
But news of Rainbow's closure has brought a bump in customers, even for a weekday matinee. And there's a couple of things in particular they'll miss.
I will probably miss the price, which is very reasonable, and the popcorn's probably the best in Regina.
Just the idea of coming here, having popcorn and a drink and sitting in a nice theater.
The economical movies and the popcorn, I'll miss the popcorn.
Boys in the water! Kick off your shoes, anything heavy!
One of the final films screening here is Brotherhood, the true story of a group of boys stranded in Ontario's Balsam Lake. It was co-produced by Saskatoon's Karma Film and co-financed by Creative Saskatchewan.
There's some nice simpatico there that with the Rainbow's swan song of sorts, that they would invite a Brotherhood film that is a story about hope and new tomorrows and survival.
But as the arcade games are wheeled out and the lights dimmed, the end of the reel becomes even more real. Ethan Williams, CBC News, Regina.
This group of superheroes created quite a buzz in Calgary yesterday as they rappelled down the building to help clean the windows at a hospital. They were a big hit with people outside and inside, and most importantly, kids. The fearless team included Batman, Superman, Mr. Incredible, and even Obi-Wan Kenobi. We'll be back after the break. Hurricane Fiona is bearing down on Atlantic Canada. Forecasters expect it to make landfall in Nova Scotia tomorrow morning as a very powerful post-tropical storm. They say it could be one of the most severe to ever hit eastern Canada, bigger than earlier Storm Juan in 2003 and stronger than Dorian in 2019.
It's still a major hurricane, and it's only 900 kilometers away from us, and it's getting bigger. We are going to see some extreme winds associated with Fiona. Where it fits in the history books, we'll have to make that determination after the fact, but it is going to be certainly a historic extreme event for Eastern Canada.
Fiona is forecasted to arrive in Nova Scotia tomorrow morning. Environment Canada says it will also hit PEI, southeastern New Brunswick, western and southwestern Newfoundland, as well as some parts of Quebec bordering the Gulf of St. Lawrence. People were out earlier stocking up on supplies and battening down the hatches. They're being told to stay indoors once the storm hits. Officials did warn of possible prolonged power outages, wind damage, coastal flooding, and road washouts.
This weather update is brought to you by Capital Ford Lincoln, making back to busy easy.
And weather specialist Ethan Williams joins me now. The timing of that story is something else. My phone in the commercial buzzed. My mom telling me that my family on PEI is bracing for Fiona.
Yes, probably going to be seeing major impacts there. Hopefully they're safe, of course.
So far, so good.
Yeah, that's good to hear. And as you heard, they're likely going to be into tonight, into tomorrow, when the worst of the effects are felt there. Now, here on our side of things, we are seeing a little bit of rain and wind as well. Of course, really not anything like they're seeing on the east coast, but we did get some rain from a system yesterday. Regina picking up around 9 millimeters. Craven, Wawota, Assiniboia around 5 or 6 or so, and Davin just southeast of Regina Regina around 4.3. Now, that is much needed moisture. It might be harvest, and we really don't need the rain now. But Regina, we have had absolutely no rain from September 1st to September 21st, and that is actually the second longest streak that we have had no precipitation in the month of September since records have been kept in, or since the start of record keeping in 1883. That stat courtesy of Rolf Campbell, who keeps weather records for all of Canada, or at least major Canadian cities. Now, Swift Current, you've beat that. You've had no rain so far this month, according to Environment Canada, and Moose Jaw has seen only 0.2 millimeters so far. Now, don't know about streaks on that because Rolf Campbell doesn't keep records for Swift Current and Moose Jaw, but nonetheless, it has been very dry, and a lot of the province seeing very dry conditions. But West Central Saskatchewan starting to see some showers now move in, and the remnants of that system that we had yesterday now pulling out of southeastern Saskatchewan. And that is really causing our temperatures to be all over the place this afternoon. We're looking at 20 degrees in Maple Creek, but east of there, where rain has cooled the atmosphere, it's only 10 degrees in places like Yorkton and down in Weyburn right now, and that's a 11-degree spread between Leader and Yorkton. Quite a vast difference. Now, we are looking at showers to pull out of the southeast tonight. Another system could make its way through the southwest. Not going to drop too much rain. Tomorrow afternoon, we're looking at clear conditions, or at least no precipitation expected in the south of the province. A small system making its way through the north, and then Sunday, high pressure moves in, and we are seeing mostly clear conditions, sunny skies throughout the province. Now, with that system moving through the southwest tonight, around 3 millimeters in places like Swift Current and Maple Creek, and really not all that much tomorrow afternoon in the north, maybe a millimeter or even less than that. Tonight, there is frost possible in central regions of the province. I think Saskatoon, you'll just be warm enough that you'll avoid that. But for the eastern side of the region, we are looking at fog developing overnight. Now, wind gusts tomorrow going to be picking up quite significantly out of the northwest between 50 and 60 kilometers an hour. And that's almost province-wide. The worst of the gusts kind of right in the central part of the province. Sunday, those move eastward, and gusts will be between 30 and 40 along the eastern side of the province, but high pressure, meaning that it won't be too significant for the rest of us. Now, Regina, tomorrow, not bad of a day and really not bad of a weekend, except for the wind gusts tomorrow afternoon. Temperature is going to warm up quite nicely as we head into next week. Mainly sunny over and over and over and over again in that forecast. Saskatoon, we are looking at a high of 19 with mostly sunny conditions. Again, very strong winds. A 25-degree temperature on Tuesday, and we will see sunshine as we head through Wednesday. And Sam, those overnight lows, don't worry, they won't get too bad. You probably won't need the AC on, but we likely won't see any frost next week.
That's not so bad. Thanks, Ethan.
You bet.
An innovative program at Cuba's National Zoo has made encountering wild animals more accessible for the deaf community. Earlier this year, the state-run zoo launched sign language interpreters who serve as tour guides for deaf visitors. The zoo says it has increased attendance. Today happens to be the International Day of Sign Languages. The zoo also has programs for children with Down syndrome, autism, and other special needs. We'll be back after the break. Earlier this week, we learned Saskatchewan has hit a grim milestone in the pandemic. More than 1,500 people have now died due to COVID-19. We also know more people in our province have died this year compared to last in the same time period. What does this information tell us about the state of the pandemic? For more information, I'm joined by Angie Rasmussen, a virologist at the Vaccine and Infectious Disease Organization in Saskatoon. Thanks for being here.
Thanks so much for having me, Sam.
So as the pandemic drags on, what do death numbers reveal to scientists?
Well, ultimately, what death numbers do reveal right now is that the pandemic is actually affecting people in different ways. But more than anything, it means that more people are getting COVID than ever before, and including more high-risk people are getting COVID than ever before. And this is really due, I think, to three major things. One is that we have a new variant that's circulating, or it's not really new, but a more recent variant. The Omicron family of variants are capable of evading the vaccines to a greater degree than previous variants. So they're infecting more people. Second, we have a lot of people who have been fully vaccinated, but who have not gotten a booster dose, which really does increase protection against both infection and severe disease caused by Omicron variants. And third, we've really relaxed a lot of those other measures that were in place to reduce the spread of COVID-19, including things like vaccine requirements and mask mandates. And those three things together have ultimately led to more people getting COVID, which means that more high-risk people are getting COVID, and they may not have the booster shot that will provide them with extra protection against COVID.
Saskatchewan is a different place than it was this time last year. More people are vaccinated now than they would have been this time last year, but more people have died in the same time period. What does that tell us about the impact of those variants?
So the impact of the variants is huge, and it really is one of the main reasons why we are still seeing so many COVID cases, as well as so many deaths from COVID. These variants are simply capable of evading some of the immunity that's induced by the original recipe vaccines, as it were. So that just means that if there are more opportunities for the virus to spread, people, even vaccinated people, are more likely to become infected with the virus. And that includes, again, people who are at higher risk for developing severe disease.
What should people keep in mind as we move into, well, fall, winter, indoor seasons?
People really do need to keep in mind that being indoors, as we have to be here in the winter time in Saskatchewan, is really associated with more and more transmission. So the thing that I encourage everybody to do is, if you haven't gotten boosted yet, you have been fully vaccinated, go out and get a booster shot at least 3 months after you've recovered from COVID or your most recent dose of the vaccine. But go out and get that booster shot, because we actually do have a lot of data that supports that those boosters really do improve protection, including against the Omicron variant. And then I would encourage people also to continue taking precautions, even though they may not be mandated. So continue to be mindful of gathering with large crowds in indoor spaces. Continue to be mindful about being in the most ventilated spaces that you can be in. Consider wearing a mask when you go out into public spaces, and continue to use rapid tests to monitor yourself and your symptoms. And then finally, there's one other thing that actually doesn't have to do with COVID, and that's influenza. We know from data in the Southern Hemisphere that we might be expecting a fairly bad flu season this year. So I do encourage people, in addition to getting a COVID booster, to go out and get your flu shot so that you have maximum protection against that virus as well, since it largely spreads in the same way that COVID-19 does.
Angie, thank you so much for your time and for your work.
Thank you so much for having me, Sam. Anytime.
Angie Rasmussen is a virologist at Vito in Saskatoon. And Ethan is back with one last look at tonight's weather.
And partly cloudy to clearing skies in Regina overnight, but we'll see those clouds build back in at 8 a.m. tomorrow, around 11 degrees. Winds will be light, but they will pick up pretty quickly as we head toward the noon hour, west to 35. They'll be even gustier, over 50 by the time we get into the afternoon, but we will get some clearing skies. At 8 a.m. in Saskatoon, we are looking at 10 degrees again. West winds up around 20 kilometers an hour or so, and those clouds will also clear as well. Winds getting to around 40, but gusting to 60 later in the afternoon. Now, if you're heading out to Lumsden tomorrow, it is the annual Scarecrow Festival out there, and not too bad of an afternoon. 20 degrees again, quite gusty conditions. That market starting around 2 o'clock. So not bad at all, Sam, for a weekend out in the valley.
I can't wait. Thanks so much, Ethan.
You bet.
That is it for us this week. For News Anytime, you can always head to our website or subscribe to the CBC Saskatchewan YouTube channel. Glenn Reed and Ethan will be back with more tonight at 11. Thank you so much for watching, and have a great weekend.